Austrian planning combined with Russian courage. What more could you want? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Reading War and Peace by Tolstoy Diaries. Today is October 3rd, and we are here to talk about what we read, what I read last night. So last night I got up to 263. So from where we left off was at the Bolkonskys' residence, and Prince Vasily and Anatoly were visiting old Prince Bolkonsky with the hopes of arranging a marriage between Anatoly and Maria. I'm so proud of Maria. I was prepared to throw the book because it's like, that portion of my reading really was about to irk my nerves. So Maria is really smitten by Anatoly. She's young, she's innocent, she's naive, so like it's inevitable that she would get a crush, right? Prince Bolkonsky. So they all go to bed, right? And I like how Leo lets us peek into the rooms of Anatoly, Maria, Mademoiselle Bourienne, and Liza, and we kind of see how no one can sleep. Everyone is tossing and turning or up, and they're just a little bit nervous. Maria feels like there's demonic presence in the room, and so she asks for her maid to, or her, who are they? Are they maids? So she asks for one of her servants to sleep with her, or sleep in the same room as her, or whatever, sorry. And we go to, the only one who seems to be having a good night's sleep is Prince Vasily. But we go to Prince Bolkonsky, and he can't sleep, and it's just so adorable because we know he's so mean and very like brash, and we get to tap into his heart a little bit in his confessions. He really loves his daughter, which I said he did, and I said I believe him, and he doesn't want to see her go, and he doesn't want to see her throw her life away to someone who isn't going to love her and treat her the way that she deserves. And he's going back and forth trying to decide, like, should he step in and tell her, like, hey, he doesn't really love you, he actually loves Mademoiselle Bourienne. But the level, we can see here in this moment that he has a level of respect for her, and he doesn't want to intercept. Like, even though he personally feels like he was disrespected by his daughter, he still wants to show respect to her by not getting himself involved and allowing her to make the choice that she wants to make on her own. Of course, he breaks that, right? Because he does hint out to, like, he throws her an alley-oop by telling her a little bit about what Anatoly and Mademoiselle Bourienne was doing. And she's like still clueless. Like, what does it mean? Like, why would he say that? And all that stuff like that. And so you can tell that he was really nervous, and he was, what is that? He was waiting with bated breath. And so she decides to think on it, and she takes a walk in the garden, and there is where she finds Anatoly and Mademoiselle Bourienne, and they are canoodling, they're cuddling. And Mademoiselle Bourienne, she turns around and sees Maria, and she runs off. I was just so caught up in my feelings and my mom and the story of the Russian prince coming to save me. Like, I was just so caught up in the story and my mom, and I want to free her, and da-da-da-da. It was like, girl, bye. But we got to remember what time we're in. So it's like, okay, fine. And plus, Mariah, she really holds it down. She holds it down when Prince Vasily is like, okay, so what do you gotta do? So what, like, what's your choice? She says no. And I am so happy. I'm so happy because I'm like, girl, no, you're gonna ruin your life. And you didn't even deserve to, like, have your life ruined like that. Like, it's so messed up. So she says no, but she says that she is going to dedicate whatever it takes, no matter the cost. She wants to make sure that Mademoiselle Bourienne is with Anatole. Another thing that I'm realizing, because the word is popping out a lot, it's becoming pretty common, is the word happiness. So the word happiness comes about when when two ladies, so Helene's mother, and she's talking to someone in a room or whatever right before Helen and Pierre, they become engaged. The lady talks about happiness, but what about happiness? Like, yes, this is a great match, but what about happiness? And then there was another time when they were talking about happiness with Maria when she's praying to God, and she's talking about how, sure, Anatole seems like a really nice person, but she really desires happiness. A marriage that would bring her happiness and children and a good life and all that stuff like that. Like, the word happiness comes out a lot in this book. And so I'm going to keep a lookout for that as well. Another thing that I remember reading, and I just didn't talk about it last episode, was it reminded me so much of a saying that I learned about. It's not necessarily like verbatim in the Bible, but it's a saying nonetheless, where it talks about living in the world but not of the world. And he writes about that when describing Prince Vasily. Before we understand before we get into Prince Vasily and his whole scheme to try to secure his family financially, and him dealing with like all, people with money and stuff like that. It says here, Prince Vasily was not given to planning ahead. Still, less would he think of doing any harm to other people in order to gain an advantage. He was a man of the world, pure and simple. And there was another part where Mariah, she was saying how she wants a world of happiness. And then when she was praying to God, she was saying, like, how am I to subdue in my heart these thoughts that came from the devil? How am I to renounce forever all things so as to live at peace and fulfill thy will? It's like the world is considered, I guess you could say, the devil's playground kind of thing, right? All these material things, right? It's created, it's here, it exists to exploit and to capture, right? One of the things that we have inside of us, which is desire, right? And is used to capture us and imprison us and contain us in these worldly possessions. And when we get so caught up in living, like being of the world, we detach ourselves, we remove ourselves from being able to live here and fulfill our purpose and fulfill God's will, or if that's not something you're into, fulfill your personal journey on this planet, right? So to me, I always think of it as like, this is the school of thought, the university, the big university. We have the university for school, but we have the ultimate university, aka the universe, where we come down here and we are set to learn the school of life, where we discover our purpose, where we discover what does all of this mean, and we have these experiences and we learn and we grow. We don't become one with these experiments, these experiences. You're supposed to live a life of objectivity and just use these worldly things as tools to learn. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we get so caught up in this whole existence that we think that this is all that there is, and so we must use it to our advantage, and we must gather as much money as we can so that we can be rich, and because in we will find happiness, and in that success, that is where we will find true meaning and all of that jazz, when really living a simple life and living a present life where we can soak in all that there is that life has to experience without becoming so attached to it. That is where the true growth and the true learning begins, or is, or exists, or whatever. But anyways, that's something that I just thought I wanted to kind of like talk about a little bit. I don't want to get too caught up in that. So after that whole thing, and Prince Bolkonsky gives them their boots, gives them their suitcase, shoves them out the door, says goodbye cheerfully and happily, and slams the door. While Prince Vasily is so confused. He's like, wait. But like, maybe sometime in the future, maybe. And Prince Bolkonsky is like, bye-bye. See you never. And I thought that was just so cute. And Prince Bolkonsky better be nice to Maria. Sorry. Okay, so after that whole beautiful scene takes place, we go into... Okay, so we go back home to the Rostovs, and the Rostovs receive a letter from Nikolai, and it's very dramatic. The father, he misconstrued the letter, and he had the whole house up in an uproar, but not necessarily because it seemed like, well, because it's... I mean, Anna Mikhailovna, she does a really good job delivering the message to Natalie. And at first, the way that the father was crying and everyone was like just being so dramatic, I'm like, wait, but I thought he just dislocated his shoulder. Like, what happened? Did he get hurt again? But no. And he got promoted to officer. And oh my God, this guy has a chip on his shoulder. Let me tell you something. Anyways, let me keep going. We go back to Olmutz, and they're about to be inspected again by the emperors of Russia and Austria. So I know that the Germans were involved. They were helping out Russia, or they were alongside Russia. But I had in my head that Austria was going to help. They were going to side with Napoleon. Either they were going to keep out of it, or they were going to side with Napoleon. I know Bilibin, he was talking about how Austria might be out looking for revenge, but I thought that they were going to side with the Frenchmen, but they didn't. They ended up siding with the Russians. And so both of the emperors, Emperor Alexander, and I forgot the other one, my apologies, they are on their way. They're heading over to the square where they're going to be at. And they are going to be inspecting the regiments and soldiers, and I forgot what they're called. But before that happens, the Rostovs, they write a letter for both Boris and Nikolai, and because Boris, they know where the address for Boris is at, or in that area, they mail it to Boris, and then Boris sends a letter to Nikolai letting him know that, hey, like, you got some letters, you got some money for your new uniform, so make sure you come and you get it. So Nikolai goes to see Boris, which was really nice because we were wondering where Boris was at. And Natalie, Natasha brings up Boris when she's talking to Sonia in regards to whether she truly remembers him or not. And it's like, girl, you're a kid. Like, it's all right. Like, if you don't remember him, it's all right. But he was bound to make his appearance, right? So we go over to Boris, and he is where he's at with Berg. And they seem to have had it better than, or I should say lighter than Nikolai. So Nikolai was in the front lines and he experienced his first battle. And I don't think Boris or Berg did that. Like, they were pretty much they were touring, or marching, I guess you would say, and they were pretty much having a really good time. And so they didn't seem to have fought, or unless I could be mistaken. But anyway, so you can see the contrast of their mindsets. So Boris has it in his head that he wants to become an adjutant. To him, it's like, well, he doesn't come from wealth. So he wants to secure his bag. He wants to get a proper career and make something of himself so that he can level up as far as success, as far as not necessarily popularity, but when you're in the job, you want to level up in positions, as you want to go as higher as you can and make good connections. Nikolai is not that way. He feels like because he was in the front lines, and remember, he wasn't, he was scared the whole time. But when he gets in front of Boris, he has this huge like chip on his shoulder where he's like, adjutants are, what did he call them? He said adjutants are, so yeah, he says adjutants is a flunky's job. I wanted to say flunky, but I wasn't really sure. But yeah, he has this judgment on adjutants, saying that they're a flunkey's job. And that allowed me to kind of get a better understanding. So to me, it seems like adjutants are people who deliver messages for the generals or the commanders in charge or whatever the case may be. And yeah, they're not necessarily fighting, unless they do fight if they have to, but they usually spend most of the time during the battles going from, delivering messages and stuff like that. So Nikolai has this, he has a type of judgment on adjutants. So much so that when Prince Andrei comes in his uniform, he's very disrespectful and I'm like, I thought y'all know each other. Y'all from the same circle. But he didn't know him. So yeah, he was just being like really disrespectful. Andrei found it a little bit amusing. He was like, well, on this day, you can call me out if you want. We could square up. And Nikolai was like almost considering like, I might just do that. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, and it's like the fact that you are riding hard for these soldiers, or just like that position, when you didn't even put in any like hard work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, where is all of this coming from? Where's this animosity coming from? Like, why are you doing this? But yeah, like he was just doing too much. Like, I think he kind of gets at Berg a little bit because like he was trying to read a letter, like the letters from his family, and like Berg mentioned something about his money or whatever, and he just kind of like buffs, like he just kind of like say something. He talked out the side of his mouth to him. I mean, he apologized, but I'm like, yo, he's tripping. Nikolai is tripping. And I don't know where this, I feel like I have an understanding of where this might be coming from. Like, because he underperformed during the battles. Like, I feel like he needs to overcompensate, or it could be he's projecting. I don't know. But he's just doing too much. And I didn't like Nikolai in this fashion. It just made me look at him like, grow up. And I thought it was funny when he was telling Boris what happened, because they asked him what happened, and he decided not to tell him the truth. He decided to give him a fantasy version of the story of what happened. He decided to fabricate his narrative, and I thought that was pretty funny though. But the two emperors come, and then they inspect all the soldiers, and everyone just goes crazy. They have a new sense of confidence, of strength, with them being in their presence, and they are ready to go to war. So they're deciding whether or not, at this part where I left off last night, they were speaking with I guess all the higher ups or whatever the case may be, and there was a man that Prince Andrei said that he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he was the kind of man who decides the fates of nations. They were all deciding what they were supposed to do, right? They're in the room and they're deciding. After going back and forth, because some people were like, well, should we initiate another battle? Some people were saying that word on the street was that Napoleon he's kind of slipping up, and people are starting to see through this tough exterior, and they're seeing him as someone who is not as tough as they thought that he was. And they're like, it's time for us to go. We got more people. We have Russia, and now we have Austria on our side. We got the men. We got we know the fields, right? And so let's do it. There's no time like the present to get it done. And after going back and forth, they finally decide, okay, let's get it done. And so, yeah, that's the plan so far. They're like, okay, let's do it. let's get it popping. So that's where I pretty much left off at. Yeah, I think I did okay for someone who wasn't really who didn't take any notes last night. I feel like I remembered a good portion of what I needed to remember. It was enjoyable as usual. I've had a good time. I didn't feel like I needed to rush or anything like that, especially now that Maria is staying with her dad, and hopefully she'll find someone that will be really good to her and treat her better. I'm happy for her, and hopefully her dad is nice to her as well. Because I feel like she made him so proud. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know what you guys think. Are you reading the book? What are your thoughts? Are you liking it? Until next time, peace.